It's a Friday edition here on Zero Block 30, and today we have 4 rounds in the magazine. Round number 1, the U.S. Navy, Khan's beloved Navy, has lost control of one of its warships, and that's because it's attached to a Facebook page, folks. Like, we have a little bit of Facebook goofing thanks to an internet game, and the Navy actually had to give a response to it. The Navy, I mean, I don't blame them, because I feel like if everything is autopilot, you could get everything taken over in a second. Like, it could just be taken over in a second on accident. You can have it hacked and they won't even know it. They'll just be driving around. Wouldn't that be awesome if you could get, if you got a lottery ticket, for example, and there was a warship and they were like, okay, it's not really doing anything. It's just in the middle of the Pacific. We're going to give you guys the control. You get to control it for an hour and a half. You get to decide how fast it goes, what direction it goes. You can do whatever you want with this warship. No weapons, though, but you could do whatever you want.
That'd be pretty cool. That's like almost as though it's a military amusement park on a very grand scale, right?
Mm-hmm. Like, if I was uber rich, I would try to buy one. Like the USS Bottom Richard. Like, yes. if you had Bill Gates money, stop trying to do the malaria stuff and just buy an old ship and drive it around.
100% agree. Yeah.
That's I would do. Tell you what, you have all that money in the world and you're trying to flex on other countries, other leaders and what have you. What better flex than to roll up to freaking Russia's backyard in your own personal warship?
And it wouldn't take that long.
We were just talking about this last week. Fat Leonard had one. So.
True. Good point, Kate. There's a lot of that going on. And there's Fat Leonard 2 that's coming down. That I've heard about too. There's a lot. Those Navy admirals and high-level captains, they always get caught up in the business. Just classic no integrity. Hate to see it. All right, round number 2. Speaking of no integrity, there's a mother who left the United Kingdom with her friends, or not with her friends, but her children, to join ISIS. And now that ISIS has kind of gone down, she decided that she wants to go back. And she's ensuring all the British politicians that she never saw not even one beheading, so she deserves to come home. If you have to include in your statement, I didn't see a beheading, you probably don't deserve to go back.
Yeah.
That's just my, call me old fashioned, just how I feel about it. Round number 3, Marines have reversed an old decision about allowing religious headwear while in uniform. I'm always surprised when there's something that should have been eradicated in like the 1930s that is still going on today. Somebody tweeted at me that the military is either incredibly ahead of the rest of society or unbelievably behind. There's nothing that we're on time for.
No in between.
What are we ahead on, though?
Like technology, I would say we were definitely ahead of desegregation. Like that happened before society. Like there is social experiments that go on before. So we're either way ahead or way behind. And this time we are way behind. And finally, round number 4, the term military grade. It's all over the place. But what does it mean? We asked, you answered. There is a lot of military grade goofing going along. Do you have anything off the top of your brain, military grade, that you don't trust?
Everything?
Yeah, I would say everything, but mostly computers. Those tough books, I don't trust those.
I don't know, man.
They'll break in a second.
Things, no way, dude. Those guys got kicked to shit all the time, and they kept.
Well, not kicked. Like, I think that they stay together, kind of like an OtterBox. But those computers don't work. Like,
That's true.
That's true. Stuff. And how can you possibly, the advances that they made in satellite phones? Did you guys ever have to talk on satellite phones to people that you were like speaking with back home?
Yes.
Yes. They were terrible. It was unbelievably terrible.
How can we talk to people that are on fucking the moon and we can't do it across the globe? We use the same satellites. Like, people are like, oh, well, it's different satellites. No, it's not. All the satellites are in space. How could it possibly be further away? It's not that far.
Doesn't make sense.
Beats me.
Satellite phones. And then you have to wait 30 minutes. Like, you're like, hey, it's Matt. Hi.
And then when you try to have a conversation with all those delays, you just keep stepping on each other and talking over one another. And it's a terrible conversation overall.
It is terrible, especially if you're trying to wait for somebody to get naked and you're doing it on the internet. You know, classic. And all that today is going to be brought to you by our friends at Simply Safe. If you don't have a Simply Safe home security system, what are you doing? They're the leader in all types of home security, including they have a wireless outdoor security camera right now that they just launched, and it just got better. This brand new outdoor security camera is engineered with the advanced tech and special features you want to help keep you and your family safe. It has an ultra wide 140-degree field of view. I have it above my pool house. it can see, because of the 140 degrees, I can see almost all the way to my entire house, and then I can see the road. There's so much view, and it doesn't have that super grainy nighttime vision where a lot of the different home security systems were like, oh, we have night vision goggles, but you can't see shit. You're like, I don't know if that's a person, a raccoon, or a moth that just went in front of the camera. You don't have to deal with that with Simply Safe. Go to simplysafe.com/ZBT. You're gonna get 20% off your entire new system if you get a monitoring service. So that's going to be free too when you enroll in interactive monitoring. That's simplysafe.com/ZBT. You're going to get a free outdoor camera. What a great deal. simplysafe.com/ZBT. All right, let's go with the show. But first, before we get into it, I need what, Cons?
Well, I know what you're going to get into, and I just want to say I'm sorry, and also credit to me for not bringing this up earlier in the week and allowing you to deal with it on your own.
What's that? I don't even know what you're talking about.
Oh, I just see the first thing on the sheet. What were you going to say?
I was going to talk about that show, Squid Game.
Oh, I wasn't talking about that at all. I was just talking about the first thing underneath ad read there.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about Urban Meyer too and his leadership difficulties that he's having this week. But first up, Squid Game. Have you guys seen it?
No, not yet. But I obviously have seen everybody talking about it.
Only episode 1.
Only episode
I don't
1.
even know what the premise is.
That's where I am at too. So I'll give you the premise because I didn't know what it was about, and I think Netflix did a really shitty job in their bio about it, what it was going to be. It's essentially about this dude who, the first episode anyway, this guy that is a bettor. He goes gambling all the time, and he's lost all kinds of money for his family. His family is really struggling, and eventually he gets caught up in this scheme where it's almost like, what's that book that's about a rich guy who can hunt humans? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I do. I don't remember the name, but I know what you're talking about.
It's essentially like that, where this guy, one dude gets all these people into a room and he is going to pay their debts, and they can't get out of it. They essentially sign their lives away. It's incredibly violent, but if you guys haven't seen it, well, I guess we won't talk about it. So we'll just move on to a little bit of Urban Meyer talk. So if you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen all the 7,000 different Barstool blogs about it this week about Urban Meyer, he was caught with his hand in the cookie jar and poking a little chocolate starfish while he was in Ohio over the weekend because the Jags played in Cincy on Thursday. He decided to stay back, and I didn't even think anything about it whenever he stayed back. The only ones who I saw was former NFL players, and they were all like legitimately pissed that Urban Meyer stayed back instead of going back with his team. And I thought about it. I was like, that is a terrible look. When you're a brand new coach, you're 0-4. You lost a tough game that you probably should have won. You played well, and you decided to stay back. And then you have a video that comes out with you getting danced upon, and she's grinding up on you. And then there's another alternate angle where you're actually poking her in the old butthole, giving a little butthole poke. We've all been there, my friends, with our significant other or with somebody. You're in the bar, you're doing a little butthole poke. Like if you're having a cup of margaritas, Kate, 23-year-old Kate isn't getting a butthole poking.
No, I've been very horny in bars before, okay, but right. I've never wanted somebody to poke my butthole when I was wearing jeans. I never. Not
even just a little. Oh, got your goose.
No, I never even got an oil check. Really, that was never really my thing.
Because I see it on TikTok a lot now, where people will go by and, like, the husband or the boyfriend will slap the lady on the butt. And at first she's like, oh, I hate that. And then if you don't do it, she also hates that as well. I think that Urban Meyer just doing a little butt poking whenever he's out there. And first of all, this lady's not like his girlfriend. I feel like you might have a little more carte blanche just to go and poke a little butthole. If it's a significant other, that's a dangerous move if it's just somebody that you're flirting with at the bar.
Yes.
No shit, Jeff.
Not to mention in 2021.
That's assault, brother.
That's assault,
Yeah.
brother. Just terrible optics. This is like if you started a new job, like Nick officially came on board with Barstool. If Nick had said, hey, by the way, I'm going to take a 2-week vacation. The optics are just terrible. To say it's
not like that. It'd be like if Erica did when she became the CEO.
Even more apt comparison there. Yeah. I mean, for him, just because you played on a Thursday, that doesn't mean, okay, cool, weekend's open. I don't think there's a lot of people out there that don't appreciate how much time goes into coaching. It's not a surprise to anyone, but there's a lot of time dedicated to being a successful coach, especially at the collegiate and NFL level. And the hardest part I mean, with college kids, a lot of times you can develop that culture and you maybe get away with a little extra. But the NFL, you're dealing with a bunch of adults. They're just going to call you on your BS as much as the Jags already did. And they just don't have time. They're trying to win football games, keep their jobs, and they don't have time for old Urban Meyer, dancing and acting a fool.
Go ahead, Nick.
I thought you were going to say that when I got hired that I went around asking people to poke their buttholes. Just to be clear.
I heard rumors. I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to out you.
Yeah, big rumors in the production room. That's where I thought you were going with that, Con. So I was very relieved that you just chalked it up to.
No, Nick, you're not that type of man. You have more morals than Urban.
I do.
But I do think that there is some connections that you see with Urban Meyer and military style leadership, because there's been a lot of the different conversations on the internet has been things like, well, why would anybody care? NFL players do this all the time. This is like getting drunk at the bar. Like if you're drunk at the Marine Corps ball and you're a Lance Corporal or PFC, it's par for the course. Like that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
But if the BG comes out or if the Major General comes out and he's fucking hammered or she's fucking hammered, ripping cigs, putting cigarettes out, poking people in the butthole, it's a totally different thing. Like you can't do that whenever you're in charge. Yeah. And then to go out, and this is the part that I thought was egregious, because if you're in a leadership position and you're tasked with leading folks, you can't then go out and say, well, the results are actually going to be on all my subordinates. Like if they win the game or not, it's on the leadership. Like that would be essentially the battalion commander going out and being like, look, if we win this war, it's going to be on the squad leaders, not me. If we mess this thing up, it's totally on the NCOs. Like you can't do that.
I couldn't believe that statement from him that, hey, the preparation.
Dude, why are you there,
the
Urban? Why are you there?
Yeah, that one kind of floored me. I was like, wait, you're the head coach. Everything falls on you. Obviously, a lot has to do with how the players perform, but ultimately it all rolls up to you. I just don't get, the guy's been a successful coach pretty much everywhere he's been. I don't get how he's this inept now that he's at the NFL.
Well, people are saying it's because he's just not used to folks who their entire future don't rely on him. Like if you're in college, if you're a 5-star athlete, you need Urban Meyer to tell the NFL teams that you're great at practice, that you're working hard, that you're doing all the things. These NFL players don't need that. Aaron Rodgers said today, the difference between college and pro is in college, you call in every single coach. In the NFL, you're calling them by your first name. Yeah. These people are on your level. They're not like your vicious subordinates or anything like that. They are going to call you by your first name. And if I'm the owner of the team and the head coach says, if we win or lose, it's on the players, not on me, then what the fuck am I paying you $12 million for?
Right.
Yeah, sure. Okay. If that's the case, let me bump that down to about, $500,000 a year. See how you feel about it, coach.
Right. And I would still take that. That's a great salary to be.
Pretty great salary. Yeah.
Not thumbing my nose at $500,000 a year.
And now his wife is caught in the crosshairs too. Cause I thought about that from the jump. This is a 6 or 7 year contract. His total contract numbers aren't out there. 6 or 7 years at $12 million each year. If he stayed for the life of his contract, how does his wife show up to the games? Like how embarrassing that would be.
Yeah. Just terrible.
Well, Hillary did okay,
Yeah, and that didn't go well with her. Now Shelley might be able to be the head coach if she took all of Urban and all of his 80,000 different frames that he has on his coffee table that I blogged a few weeks ago. If she kicked his ass out and told him to go back to Ohio, if that's where you want to be punching buttholes, you're gonna stay the fuck away from my butthole now, Urban.
Now, if I see a guy with too many picture frames on his desk, I'm gonna think he's compensating.
Yeah, compensating.
Interesting.
I still don't understand why he even made the move to the NFL. He had more success at the collegiate level than most coaches do, more money than he would ever need to spend in a lifetime, and beloved. Cool.
Since we've been alive, there's only one coach that's more successful than Urban Meyer, and that's Nick Saban. That's it. Dabo is not close, because Urban has 3 at 2 different schools. That's not even close, really.
I saw the one tweet that was like, well, we know he was drinking dark liquor that night. That's a dark liquor move.
It is a dark liquor. Like that. Well, it was tequila is what it was. It was margaritas at his own spot. So if you're doing margaritas at your own spot and it's a high-end chop house type of place, 1, you're not getting cheap tequila. You're drinking some nice tequila. And 2, they aren't skimping on the pours. They're giving you some good ass pours, which might be his downfall, honestly. Because if he comes there after and he's just having a couple appetizers and he starts getting some heavy margaritas, there for the grace of God go on. Like, I think that I got to take it back a little bit, because once you have tequila start flowing in through your veins, you aren't nearly as accountable to your own self as you normally would be. You're going to do things that you don't normally do.
Yeah.
My only other theory is that he was trying to ingratiate himself as a Florida man.
Good point.
I mean, that's possible.
But he was a head coach at the University of Florida, which I would say Gainesville is even more Florida man than Jacksonville.
True.
That's true. Yeah. I just don't understand also too, you're at your own bar. Why don't you have, not that you're, highfalutin.
You need a get back man.
All right. So that was one of the things I was going to say. You need a dude who's in your ear saying, "Hey, coach, maybe
guy. You need that guy.
You need to get back coach at the bar for sure."
Everybody, God, I wish we could all have that person.
Yeah,
you need to be on Pac-Man Jones rules when he was with the Cowboys.
Yeah, and then number 2, why is he not in just some roped off area, just away from cameras, with a little more supervision? I get it. Everybody wants to let loose and have a good time sometimes. That was just not the way to go about it by him.
The woman in the picture who got her actual butthole poked was hilarious. And she like, who's this guy? He poked me in the butthole.
Guy? He keeps flirting with me.
She, like, her thing on Snapchat, like the story was, who's this guy? He poked me in the butthole and was dancing with me all night.
Fantastically funny.
And now Shelly just announced that she is off Twitter. She went from she went from like 39,000 followers. She's up to 52,000 followers now, and then had to make this announcement. But she was heavy on Twitter before. This would be like one of us having to get rid of Twitter, and we're on their thing all the time. Like, if you go through her likes, she was constantly on there. So I was going through right when it happened. There was somebody, the tea was beautiful, because there was one woman who was like, "You don't deserve this. Urban doesn't deserve you." And she hit that like button.
Oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it sucks. I do feel for her. I do. It sucks.
I mean, absolutely. To have a life in the public eye to this extent, and to see your husband just completely embarrass you in front of the entire country.
Mm-hmm. And he signed a contract before she went to Jacksonville. Do you guys know that? Have you heard that?
No.
So he signed a contract with his family too, that he wouldn't allow football to get in the way of his responsibilities as a grandfather and as a father and as a husband. That's a breach of contract, pal.
Oh, that's the other part that I forgot too. While he's out at the bar doing whatever, she's back watching the grandkids. Oh,
and she's tweeting about fucking corn.
Yeah.
And she's like, "This sweet corn is delicious."
Oh my goodness. Just not a good situation. So chaps, in what world does he make it past season 1 here in Jacksonville?
Well, from what I've heard from people in the organization, they're having all the attorneys go through and see if there is a morality clause that they can get out of. But I think almost every contract has a morality clause, like mine does, Kate's does, like any contract that has to deal with people that are public facing, there's always going to be a morality clause. And I think they could get him because he apologized like 5 times, admitted that he was wrong with like his lapse of judgment and things like that. But for me, Urban's been a head coach and been on Fox Sports and all that stuff. This dude probably is worth at least $70-80 million. Like, has something that liquid, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Why in the world would you go through that when not only are you going to have that much, you're already rich, so you don't need to go through that in order to have a job, but you're also going to lose a shit ton more games because the Jags are just bad. They have a bottom 3 roster. The guy he looks disheveled when he's out there right now. Yes. He looks like a defeated man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the last, he came from all those wins in college, and that's just a tough hill to climb to rebuild.
Trevor Lawrence has already lost more games than he did in high school and college combined.
I know. I saw that stat. That's unbelievable. It just, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I guess everybody still has that fire. At some point they want to keep coaching, but it just doesn't make sense why he would do this to himself.
And even people who don't care about leadership stuff are like, Urban's fucked up. But for me, like, I do care about that. And I'm like, why are you making these decisions, man? Like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking, guy? Just to go out there.
He's not thinking. That's the thing. He's not thinking.
Thinking with his dick. Classic.
You said
classic.
The old second head. It'll get you.
Every time.
Get you. All right, let's actually go into some military topics of the day. Round number one. Kate, what do we got here?
From James Clark at Task and Purpose. For the last several days, someone has been having a lot of fun playing the classic 1997 strategy game, Age of Empires. Normally, this wouldn't be news, but in this case, someone has been live streaming it on the official Facebook page of the USS Kidd. That is a big-time Navy ship, for those who don't know.
Named after Jason Kidd, actually.
Yeah. Commander Nicole Schwegman said it was hacked and that they're working with Facebook to resolve the issue. As of Thursday morning, the videos are still up on the official account for the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer. Whoever took control of the page also went as far as to change the account type to gaming video creator. The first live stream appeared on the Kidd's Facebook account on Sunday with the gleeful caption, ha 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 ha. That was quickly followed by another stream at 2:37 in the morning on Monday with the words, play game. Then another 2 hours later that included the message, hi everyone. And it concluded at 6:17 a.m. with the words, hi guys, and then the letter F just an hour later. And
you know what this is? I've already solved this case. Like the Navy's trying to solve it. This is exactly what would happen to me because McCartney comes in my office, plays video games. Yep. I'm logged in, doesn't have to do it. Facebook's still logged in. You push two buttons and it has share to your Facebook, share to YouTube, share to Twitch or whatever. What happened is the person who's the social media manager, the PAO, they left their Xbox or they left their computer whenever they went somewhere. Their kid got on it. The kid could spell a little bit, probably 9 or 10 years old, doesn't have any idea what they're doing, but sees the interaction. And these kids that are like 11, 12 and younger, whenever they finally get a little stream that has some people, they get addicted to that shit because they see it on YouTube all the time. That's it's just a 9-year-old sitting at home and his dad or mom is a senior chief. Like that's all this was.
That's what I was thinking too. But then I was like, well, 2:37 a.m. would a little kid be up then? But then I was like, well, depending on where the ship is in the world, if they're at home on their parents' computer, on their mom or dad's computer,
and it's
then
supposed to be in the Pacific from what I read. It's out there in the Pacific. So if it's in the Pacific, the time is going to be, that's probably around 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Right, when you get home from school, you got to get on there and do a little goof.
Yeah. And it's not like no one's seeing this. The account has 19,000 followers who have been loving it. So
and just let them continue to do it.
A lot of them have been commenting too, saying this has got to be somebody's kid that is doing this. In any case, obviously, hardly the first time a military social media account has gone off the rails. Lest we forget Horny Fort Bragg. Fort Bragg. Yeah, that PAO forgot to switch over to their own account when they started horny tweeting at an OnlyFans stripper.
And that was aggressively horny. Wasn't it like, let me lick your vagina or something like that? Something
they were basically sexting back and forth via Twitter.
I'll lick you from the bottom to the top. Like it was like, whoa, dude, you are horny. When you say words like they did to Fort Bragg. Yeah, I mean, and you say stuff like that, you are in the midst of a session. That's not something that you say when genitals. Oh, you're big time touching it. You're giving a little stroke. You're doing the old pink canoe, giving a little DJ accent, something.
Yeah, absolutely. Playing a little air guitar. Yeah, you know how it goes. Anyway.
What?
Anyway,
pink canoe?
Love old Horny Fort Bragg. Yeah, that was a little much. The base's public affairs claimed the account had been hacked, then deleted it, blah, blah. We know that story. For the USS Kidd, the account is still up. And this article was saying a lot of times people say, oh, we were hacked, when truly that is not the case. Like,
you just didn't log out. Like that's what happened when you didn't get hacked. You just didn't get logged out. But that gives me an idea. They should have, because all these different major ships, all these major installations, these posts, these different squadrons, everything has their own individual Facebook page. They should legitimately let the kids of some of these senior members that are old enough play in like little tournaments where you almost have like a March Madness style bracket of kid versus kid, where you have squadron, like each one of the squadrons, you're going to have like a Roblox or Fortnite tournament where all the kids from that squadron or battalion can play. And then you go on and see who the ultimate military gamer kid is. That would be incredible.
All right. I'm okay with that. I didn't really know where you were going with that initially, but I'm okay with that.
Not to the pink canoe.
All right.
I did have a question though. Say that does turn out to be the case, and it was the ship's PAO's child who was doing that. Are there consequences? I guess the consequence would be leaving their
should be.
account open.
OPSEC too.
Yeah,
exactly.
OPSEC too, right?
I mean,
Which-
I don't
I don't know.
that it
I
needs to
mean,
be a
if
severe
nothing
punishment.
happened though, I don't see a commander getting super angry. Like, come on, like
Yeah.
maybe be like, come, you got to be more careful. It was funny this time, but next time it could be something not so funny. You got to log out. You got to, and just have like a little bit of counseling session. But no, in the military, they'll go high and to the right, and somebody will go to the gulag because of this. Like,
Right, yeah.
This is something they're gonna hang somebody from a yardarm now. Like that's what they're gonna do. But they shouldn't. They should just be. They should find a way to capitalize, which it seems like they have. They don't seem to be super upset about it.
Get the ship sponsored by Age of Empires, you know?
Ooh.
Something.
It would
Kind
be
of
nice.
ironic. Kind of ironic that it was probably a kid and it's the USS kid.
Yeah, true. Good point, Cons.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to round number 2. This story comes to us from all the way over in England, because in the English Standard, the Evening Standard, so there's a woman named Nicole Jack, and she was a mother who fled London to join ISIS and wants to return to with her 3 kids now. She has spoken for the first time since her desire to return to the UK was made public. Her and her 3 daughters, who are aged 12, 9, and 7, are currently in Syria's Roj camp, and that's a detention camp that they're being held at essentially as refugees. When she was asked by the BBC why she left in October of 2015, she insisted that her husband threatened to split the family up if she refused to travel with him to join the caliphate. It was about my family being together, she said, after claiming that lying to her family was the only way that she was going to be able to start a new life with her family in Somalia. You know what this reminds me of? Are you guys familiar with Sally Field's cinematic adventure known as Not Without My Daughter?
I've heard of it.
I can see as a mom, like, so she lied to her family to say, we're moving to Somalia. The whole family's going to Somalia. And then they went to join ISIS or whatever. But I can see the husband.
That was the most dismissive going to join
Right.
ISIS.
Like, oh, we're going to
like, oh,
Disney
they're going to
World.
join
We're
ISIS or whatever.
Oh,
But-
we're going to Disney World. Now we decided to join ISIS instead.
But I can see the husband being like, I'm taking the kids. If I was her, I'd be like, fuck, I guess I'm going with my kids. And I can see if you're in I'm speculating here, but if you're in an abusive relationship, it's way harder to get out than you think. And
I
if
can't
you're-
imagine the ISIS guys are like really allow everybody wears the pants in the family. Like we
Yeah.
all make decisions together. If
That's
you're
not
going to
really a
ISIS, you're
warm
pretty
perception.
fucking dogmatic.
Right.
But like I can see, yeah, like her not seeing another way besides to be with her children besides to go. I don't know, but I would never I would not leave my kids in a million years. I don't know, but it seems like I can understand if that's the truth. I can understand it.
And there's a lot of assumptions that you can make based on the normal type of person who is in ISIS, or the average person. I want to say normal, the average person who is in ISIS, where you have arranged marriages where you might not have known them and then you get locked in. And then if you have that in extreme culture, who knows how many other people in her life has that. But we've seen what ISIS or the Taliban will do whenever you go against your husband. And a lot of it is very, very bad. So I could see that, like we're saying all these things, but it's almost like a moral version of human trafficking, right? Like where if this woman really feels like she's locked in and her kids are going to be taken to an ISIS controlled area, I think as a mom or me as a dad, I would do everything I possibly could if my kids were going to go there, where I'm going with them too. Like they're not going to do this alone.
But
Yeah,
on that
because-
hand too, I would also do everything in my power to, hey, me and the kids are going to the store back
Right,
in England
yeah.
before we
Go
leave
get a
and
couple
to get
pack
the
of
fuck
cigs.
out of there.
Right.
Yeah.
Go pick
yeah.
up some milk.
But right.
But
no,
again-
chaps, you 3-year-old parents, I'm not yet, hopefully, by the grace of God. Anyway, I would think you feel like
And it's in that clip to Alex.
you can at least maybe have some protection over them, right?
Yeah,
If
maybe.
you're with them, you know it's going to be a terrible situation, but at least you're there, so you
Yeah.
have that peace of mind versus.
Well, it didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
After her husband died in the fighting, she remarried a Trinidadian ISIS fighter, Adil de Montrechard, who went on to die in an airstrike, which also killed her 10-year-old son, Isaac. The children, who were born in London, attend a makeshift school in the camp run by Saved by Children. Her surviving 12-year-old daughter said she misses her grannies and aunties and wants to return to the UK so she can go to school and make friends. If anything, those kids should be allowed back home because they had nothing to do with it. And the horrors they probably were privy to are pretty awful. That's pretty crazy.
Wait,
Also,
all right.
with one of your ISIS husband died, you got to think, I'm not going to marry another one.
That's what I was just going to say. I was kind of curious to make sure I was understanding the story correctly. She had a chance to run away and never be connected to ISIS.
Is it that easy though?
Yeah, but it's not like she can go get a job at the check cashing place like down the street. Like that's
how easy do you think it is for a woman to travel freely in those areas?
Oh yeah.
Two, if her husband was already ISIS, she had no chance. They were obviously going to remarry her again. Like I don't think that was her. I don't know.
I'm sure it was forced. For sure forced. I mean, it's not like her husband dies. The next thing you know, she's working at Krispy Kreme. Like she can't do that. Like whenever you're in an ISIS controlled area. Awful. I don't know what it is tough.
I don't know the full story. I don't know. Speculating.
I mean, it's tough whenever you are the UK government, or that's the same type of thing that could happen here, because you look at the kids that are involved, the wife that's involved, and you can make the arguments like we all have here, where she doesn't have control over doing those type of things. But you also know that your job as the government sometimes is to control the narrative. And if you're looking at this and saying, okay, we're going to let this people that went to go join ISIS back into the country with no repercussions whatsoever, that's also a very tough position to put the government in too. I think. I don't know what you do. I don't know what the answer is. But she's not the only one that's going through that. We see constantly, we're seeing it now with some of these Afghan refugees that are leaving Afghanistan, and certain countries, many countries don't want a lot of the people that are in there, like where it's becoming difficult in some cases to place folks. And these aren't people that were in ISIS. These are just people who happen to live in Afghanistan.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Awesome. All right, let's move on to round number 3. What do we have for round 3, Kate?
All right, round number 3. This comes to us from Philip Appy of the Marine Corps Times. On September 23rd, First Lieutenant Sukhbir Tour, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, possibly became the first Marine to lawfully wear a turban in the Marine Corps uniform. The Marine Corps granted Tour the ability to wear the turban, uncut hair, and beard in uniform in accordance with his Sikh faith, unless he deploys to a combat zone or while he is wearing a dress uniform in a ceremonial unit. The young Marine and the lawyers who represent him said the accommodations mark progress, but don't go nearly far enough. The accommodations he was granted effectively amounts to a denial. It's almost asking someone to compartmentalize their identity, according to Giselle Clapper, his lawyer. After several requests and lawsuits, the Army changed their policy in 2017. And as we all know, the Army fell apart and nobody can function anymore. And it's just all ruined. Just kidding.
Classic.
Nothing happened and it's totally fine. Tour, the son of Indian immigrants, joined the Corps in 2017 and is serving as an artillery officer in 311 Marines. Worth noting, 311, you've heard about those guys. They are a beautiful disaster flowing down like a love song, but they come original even if they're all mixed up.
That's right.
You know what I mean? 311 goofing. Anyway, the Marine told the New York Times that when he first joined, he was willing to cut his hair, shave his beard, and wear the traditional Marine Corps covers, believing that it was wrong to ask for something from the Corps before he gave anything back. But when he was selected for promotion to captain, he decided it was time to ask. I finally don't have to pick which life I want to commit to, my faith or my country, he told the Times. I can be who I am and honor both sides. Sikhs traditionally wear 5 articles of faith that signify commitment to religion: a small wooden comb, a ceremonial sword, cotton shorts, slightly longer underwear called kachera, a small steel bracelet, and they go again without cutting their hair or beard, and then the turban. So Lieutenant General David Ontagon, he wrote a letter granting Tour the ability to wear the turban and unshorn hair, but only in limiting circumstances. He says, the real world consequences of the failure of a forward deployed Marine unit, such as the one you lead, could jeopardize the lives of Marines and those relying on them to complete their mission. He added, the Corps cannot experiment with the components of mission accomplishment in forward units without assuming the risk of mission. What?
Oh God!
What does that have to do with anything?
Dude, respectfully,
talking about
Jesus Christ!
What?
Like, just
Just
say I don't like it. Like,
Yeah,
I would rather
like
them
it.
say, like, I think it looks nasty. Like, whenever you're in uniform, I want you to be clean shaved because that's what we've always done. Just be honest, like, about it. Not it's gonna cost lives. Are you fucking kidding me? The guy's like, you wear stuff on your head anyways. Like, as long as he could get his Kevlar over it and he can prove that he could seal a gas mask if he needs to, that
Well, it's a
should
big
be the
deal.
end of the conversation. I mean, they have it with, I saw another dude, and I think if I went back now, I might would try it, where they got, it was a guy that has a Norse religion, and he got the waiver where he could wear a long beard and do other things that the Norse religion would do. I just don't understand why people care about this stuff. But I will say, I love the way that this officer went about it, like where he didn't say anything and try to rock the boat or anything when he first came in. You prove yourself. By the time you're a captain, you've proved yourself that you have done a little bit. You've been in for a little while. You've observed customs and courtesies. Now he's getting to the point where his voice is going to be heard. Because Collins knows when you're a first lieutenant, nobody gives a fuck what you say. Second
No.
lieutenant, but then when you're a captain, then you have the ear of battalion commander. They're going to actually listen to what you're talking about.
Yeah,
And-
it's unbelievable
and he-
how much people look at you differently. Once you put on those captain bars, it's automatically different, because the other thing about being a second lieutenant, first lieutenant is everyone can pretty much assume you've only been around a year or two. Once you make captain, nobody knows if you've been around 3 years, 6 years, 7 years. So it's just like an automatic level of respect that is very easy to come by.
And I think it makes his argument stronger because this is what he says here. Look, I'm on the ground level with trigger pullers every day. To them, I don't think it makes a difference. We have men, women, people of all races in my platoon. We all wear green. We all bleed red. My Marines didn't respect me because of what I had on my head. He's like, look, I'm an effective leader. I have proof of it now. And I've been wearing this and it's fine. And also, I think he looks very put together. He looks like a Marine to me. And I don't see any, like, I don't understand.
I think it's one of those. It's one of those things where when you first go to a unit or when they first roll up and they get out of their car in the morning and they're dressed differently or they look differently than anybody has, like since you've been in. At first, it takes you aback a little bit. Like the first time, for instance, that you see somebody when you're outside of a school setting and they have no shave chit where they don't have to shave, and you go up and you're like, what the fuck? This is weird. How'd you get that? They're like, oh, I have a no shave chit because I have ingrown hairs and it's a medical condition. And then you're like, okay. So then the next time you see somebody that walks in, it doesn't phase you at all. Like it's going to grab your attention at first, and then you serve with them and you realize they're the same exact kind of Marine that you've always served with, and then nothing's different at all.
Yeah. And the thing about like, well, wait until they're in combat and what's going to happen. It was the same argument used against women. It was the same argument used against people of color. It's the same old arguments coming up in different ways. And time again, it gets proven that it's not really an effective argument. It never ends up holding up.
And special operators they wear beards and shit anyways.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, dude. You know what? When we got into all these comments about people flipping out, I'd love to see somebody who flips out when they see pictures of all the operators who have the really long beards and they call them badass and they look cool and really tough. Like it's
also look up your
Same
history.
thing.
Sikhs are fucking badass, dude.
Mhm.
Like big time badass.
They're
Like,
super
helped us win
nice, but
World
they'll
War II
fuck you up
badass.
too. if they have
Anyways,
to.
game time. You guys tell me, no peeking.
Okay.
I went to military.com and Facebook page, read some of the comments, and you tell me, is the comment real or is it fake?
Okay.
Okay, first up, Denny Thompson says, I serve in the 90s. I poo-poo pee-pee. I am mad.
Oh, that's real.
Chaps.
Oh, come on.
Okay, that one's fake. I'll admit it.
Yeah.
Eva Summer says, this is disgusting. Cognitive dissonance in the mind of the U.S. soldiers that they serve with. When a soldier cannot tell an enemy from a colleague during battle, the moment
Wow.
of hesitation and oh yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it or hide it. A lot of these comments got right to the heart of why people don't like it. They're fucking racist.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't even need to read the rest of that one. Kenneth Do Squirts said the turbans have chemicals that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
That's a Katie special.
Okay. Pussy Fart Latiditon says, I'm not racist, but has anyone else noticed he's not even white?
That one could be weird. That one could be real.
Bogart von Fartpoops says, what's next? Women wearing ponytails?
Oh, I have bad news for him.
Dan Cox says, does the Marine Corps have ED, erectile dysfunction? I think so. They've gone soft. Better get that Costco bulk blue pill. On a serious note, I don't agree with the ideology of you must change for me.
I think that one's real.
I feel like
That's a
one's
real comment. Absolutely is real. And then I won't keep going, but Jim Ross said this, as an officer, he is supposed to lead by example. That includes grooming standards. If I am being inspected by this guy, he had better never tell me I need a shave or a haircut. And the funny thing about Jim Ross is I clicked his profile. He's real and he weighs about 350 pounds. So I don't think he has to worry about anyone inspecting
But that's
him.
the way it goes whenever you're bitching on one of these Facebook accounts. Like that's the type of person that does it, that cares.
Yeah, a lot of the same comments over and over. Kevin Johnson, about does his hat come in Kevlar, asking for a friend, to which I was pleased to see all these shithead commenters were immediately roasted and corrected by many others in the following comments, and called out for what they are. But anyway,
I think that is a thing that this generation of troops is going to police themselves, because they don't. I think that people are a lot more open about religion and not seeing you get discriminated against because of your religion, like in the younger crowd. And I think it's the same way with equality for like the LGBTQ community, where you're going to have people push back much more than older folks. And a story to that example was there was a trans girl here in Texas that was not allowed to use the bathroom that she needed to go to. And the school administrator said, no, you have to go to the boys' bathroom. All the kids were like, fuck that. No, the kids had a walkout, like in support of this kid, like let her go to the bathroom where she wants to go to the bathroom. She's not bothering anybody. And that's what kids are doing. So I think once these kids grow up, like we look at kids and poo-poo them a lot, but I think for issues like this, equality and race and things that shouldn't matter, it's not going to matter to these kids. They're going to want everybody to be respected.
Yeah, there was a ton of comments being like, shut the fuck up, I serve and I don't care. Like, so there's a ton of that too. So.
But this is just an example. Isn't it interesting how people allow something that has no bearing or effect on their own personal life to annoy them to the point that they're upset and they feel they need to comment? I don't understand. If it doesn't bother or doesn't affect you in any way, why do you care?
Now, that being said, I'm still very against umbrellas.
Okay. All right.
So, all right, let's move
we will
on.
allow you to stand by that one.
Unless it's a military grade umbrella, which is what, Kate? What would you say that is?
That is the tweet that we put out there saying, give us your best definition of military grade, because Jessica Scott asked, is there an actual definition or is it some vacuous term that thrown around to sound impressive? Because in the civilian world, military grade is seen as incredibly, every truck that you see in a military grade Ford, blah, blah, blah. Sunglasses, these Oakley's are their military grade, blah, 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 military grade pepper spray, blah, blah, blah. But if you serve in the military, you're like, oh no, it's military. And everybody
grade. Rolls their eyes at that kind of stuff. Like,
yeah.
Oh,
so we
man.
asked basically, like, what does military grade mean to you? Dad Brad said, well, I got D's in high school and I'm in the military. It's like that, but with equipment. Fair. Yes. The equipment would get a D grade. Terminal Lance, our old buddy there, said anything you have to commit to 4 years with no trial period. At You're All Idiots said, and this is one of my favorites, can be replaced on the economy for $45, but will cost you $650 if you lose it.
Yeah.
So something
So
very
accurate.
cheap that you get charged a lot for. Cons, you said the cheapest option going. Somebody included, remember the pens? As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my God, there's a specific brand of pen.
Yeah.
Somebody included the toilet paper, which was Skillcraft toilet paper. And it is so
Those were Skillcraft
thin.
pens too. I didn't realize
Skillcraft
made multiple things.
So incredibly thin. And then somebody else said Simple Green, which was the cleaning stuff. I'll smell that until the day I die.
I love that smell now, though. I'm back in on it. Like the Simple Green, it's one of those smells where it takes you back. And anytime that I'm cleaning like outside, I have to pressure wash, I always use Simple Green, always, because I love the way it smells.
What's wrong with you?
You don't like the way it smells? It smells clean.
Oh my God. No,
What?
it smells. You like the smell of that scarred me for life, having to clean with that shit in the military.
Simple Green. What do you prefer? Pine Saw?
Anything but. Oh, that's the worst shit ever. A lot of people saying military grade is the lowest bidder. Basically, whoever tells
that
military,
is true. That's exactly what it is.
Even if it falls apart. So it's the cheapest essentially that something can be mass produced, so I don't understand why major brands will brag about being military grade, but
because it sounds cool to civilians who don't know any better.
Yeah, it really does. It does sound cool. I'll give it that.
And usually
people.
I also think it means thicker. If you look military grade, it means thick. Like it's a military grade cell phone case. Oh, that bad
Oh,
boy's thick.
That's
Oh, yeah.
I would trust it as a civilian. You tell me
See?
it's a military grade, and that's
See?
not me trying to be funny. Like,
No,
I
that's
think
just-
it's heavy. I think like Batman's car in like The Dark Knight. Like, you tell me military grade, I assume everything's made out of the same.
I mean, that's
Yep.
how Hummer, like Chevy, made so much money from those Hummers in like the 90s, not the H3s, but the actual H2, because people thought, oh man, this is a huge diesel truck. It's never going to break down. Those were military grade, and they did break down all the time.
They
Like,
were
that's
pieces
exactly
of
what that
crap.
meant. Yeah. And they, you could still, I saw one on Facebook Marketplace here the other day. It had 270,000 miles on it.
Wow.
It was red and just had like the basic interior. That thing was on sale for 80 grand. Still 80
What?
grand for a
That's unbelievable.
1998 Hummer H2.
Wow.
I don't get it.
Unbelievable. Well, everyone wants to buy one so they can be like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I will admit, when I tell people I've been pepper sprayed, I always include like military grade stuff.
Oh yeah, that is true.
Even though
Like
I don't think there's
weapons-
any difference.
Not the
weapons,
stuff the cops are using.
not those weak ass AR-15s. We
No.
shot a M4s,
Mhm. Military grade.
military
Military
grade AR-15.
Mhm.
Yeah, you know this podcast is it's military grade.
That is true.
military grade.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's tough.
Absolutely.
It is. All right, let's move on to save rounds and alibis. Nick, we'll start with you.
I don't really have save round, but I did mention 311 earlier in the show, and we said it was a good band. It's actually the first concert I ever went to in my life at Jones Beach.
Interesting.
Fun
Oh,
facts about myself, and of course,
Was
please-
Incubus there too, or no?
I think they might.
Mhm. Maybe product or orgy too.
I'm gonna look it up. I think I still have the stub at home at my parents'
Oh,
house.
nice.
So I'll-
I actually went to see 311 when I was in the Marine Corps. They played in San Diego, and there was so much weed smoke going around. I was like, I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm gonna get
Yeah.
in trouble. Because Ziggy Marley opened for them too, and I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh no, I shouldn't be. I was such a dork. I had like just gotten in.
Yeah, but I remember that was it. That was
also,
my first concert.
One of my staff sergeants was a roadie for Incubus before he joined,
Oh.
which is just
Is
a
that
neat
the
little
story?
anecdote.
Probably
yeah.
has some cool stories,
Yeah.
you know. But that's it.
Kate.
No, I always think of them after the show ends. So no, nothing right now. Sad.
Cons.
Yes. Let's see here. Number one. Chaps, I think you tweeted about this, or maybe you shared it in our group chat. There's a documentary coming out about Fauci. That's not something I'm going
Oh
to
yeah,
watch.
Disney did it too, which is
Oh,
fucking
why?
weird.
That's ridiculous.
Don't they know we want to watch TV to escape and that we're so
Yeah.
sick of that shit?
That's what I said. 15 years from now, I would watch it, like to
Right.
see what happened and how like the build up. Right now, no way, man.
Yeah.
No.
So some of the shows that I've watched that were being filmed during everything and then included it in the storyline, but I watched it after, I just thought to myself, now I got to like relive all of this. And it's just not enjoyable. So I don't have any plans to watch that, but I just wanted to point out that no one else should watch it either. This Saturday, the 9th, myself, Large, Pat, Za, Glenny, and Marty. There's a crew for you. We are going to be at Hooters in West End in Dallas, starting at 11 a.m. for the OU Texas game. I'd imagine we'll be there for quite a while. If you come by, say hello. First round is on us. If you're
What do they call it? Not the Red River Shootout, the Red Showdown. Is
Yeah,
that what
now
it
Red
is
River
now?
Rivalry.
Well, it used to be the Red River Shootout, but yeah, now it's the Showdown or Rivalry or something. Yeah, because America went and
Shooting.
got soft.
Yeah.
Lest we forget,
Yes.
the last time I was in Dallas for a
Oh.
Barstool event, Chaps was there. I went to this bar called The Trailer.
Mhm.
I had no less than 7 Yahoos, which is a Yoo-hoo based liquor drink.
Oh,
And this was after about 5 seltzers, perhaps hard seltzers.
Mhm.
And then multiple shots of the old herb juice tequila. Okay. Fast forward to the next morning when it was time to go to the event. People down there get dressed up fancy like. And this hotel we were staying at, the lobby bathroom, these women were dressed to the fucking nines. I come running in because they're all waiting for me out front, of course. And I come running into that lobby bathroom where all these old ladies are primping in the mirror and they're in their Texas like cute little outfits or whatever. I bust the door open. I vomit everywhere, everywhere. Then I have to get in this packed van, and the only seat left of all these Barstool people is in the very, very, very back middle. And this is going to the Texas State Fair. So it's hot. We're stuck in traffic, whatever. And next to me is a huge box of t-shirts that we're supposed to give out. Well, I can't wait anymore. I vomit into the t-shirts.
Oh, I don't know if I ever heard
Yeah.
that part.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Oh no.
not professional.
And
Not
then Kate had to go hang out in the RV for a few hours. Apologize to me maybe 1,000 times that day. Like, chaps, I'm so sorry. I'm never going to do this again. When we go places, I swear I won't stay out late.
The bus driver was like, people were knocking on the door of the Barstool RV being like, can we come tour the bus? And he was like, all right, but fair warning, there's like a blogger asleep back there. And so I could hear people coming in, and I just pulled the blanket up over my face, and they're like, Kate? I'm like, hello. So anyway,
That's your
have
save
fun,
round.
Cons.
That's your
That
save
won't
round.
be happening for us at the Hooters of West End. And I imagine, it is, I think, within the radius for Fort Sill and maybe also Fort Hood. So if you're down at either of those bases, come on by. If you bring me a challenge coin, I'll give you some merch in return.
Hell
And
yeah.
also, first round on me. Happy to have you. So I hope to see a lot of folks there at the Hooters. And that was
He's
a
not
segue.
paying for it. Barstool's paying for
Hey,
it. It's comped.
hey,
Don't let him try to get away
hey,
with that he's going to pay
hey.
for your drink.
That's neither here
Yeah.
nor there. They're getting their drinks paid for. That's what's important.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank them for their service, but that was my segue into Chaps. You asked us to remind you about restaurant radius.
Yeah. So here in San Antonio is often called Military City, USA, because there is it's a joint base and it's huge. Like you have you have Lackland, where there's Air Force boot camp, and then you have Fort Sam Houston, and there's also Army boot camp there. There's just a ton of military in this town. Well, one road leads to Lackland, and the biggest road, it's kind of like a midpoint from where a lot of people live, and then they go there. In this spot, there's a little almost clover leaf, like where two highways meet. In this spot that might be 3 blocks, there is a Hooters, there is a Twin Peaks, and there is a place called Bombshells, all within walking distance to each other. And every time I go by on like a Friday afternoon at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on the way to get my kids, I go by and I always see so many dudes getting out in their uniforms to go eat at these places. And I'm like, this is the pinnacle of horny military restaurants right here.
Mhm.
All of them.
Yeah, but don't
It's
you
the
love it a
Mecca.
little bit because you know those guys, even
Yeah.
though you don't know those?
I
guys?
do. And I always judge the ones that are going to Twin Peaks, because if you have to advertise how cold your beer is on the sign, the food's not that good. Like if you're going to go to one of those places, you got to go to Hooters, because at least the wings are dynamite.
I
At
love
Camp
Hooters
Pendleton,
wings.
there's one outside Camp Pendleton. We used to go to it all the time.
The Hooters?
All the
Yeah.
time.
I
It was
mean,
great.
a Hooters around a military base, when a UFC night, because they often will show the UFC fights, are packed. It's the biggest spots. But that's what I want to talk about. This is just the horniest little section of restaurants in San Antonio, and it makes me happy. I'm like, look at these little boots having a great time.
Oh, living their best life, living their best
Yeah.
boot life. Love it.
Mhm.
Love it. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's all I got though.
Yep. I don't have a whole lot either. We would be remiss if we didn't mention that Lieutenant Colonel Scheller was released from the brig earlier this week. He has a bunch of charges that are out there. You can look up that information. I'm sure that you'll want to see it, but he's out now. I'm interested to see where that story goes and what happens. And there's so many other tentacles that goes along with it. It's not just him, like family members and people that he served with. And that's the thing about military stories, is when they come out, you look at it on its face value, you're like, oh, well, how many people can that affect? Something like this, it affects a shit ton of people.
Mhm.
And not even just because it's media. Even if this was a case that didn't get a whole lot of media, whenever it's a battalion commander, whenever it's a battalion sergeant major, something like that, it touches a lot of places, because it really makes you think about where you are at. Like, what are you doing? Are you constantly doing the right thing? And I hope leaders look at this story and really figure out, what type of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be the type of leader who you have the trust and faith and confidence of people for a long time? Or is it going to be a fly by night thing? And I've thought a lot about that this week, and I probably will for some time, but that's about it. We'll see you back here on Tuesday. Go see Cons at Hooters in Dallas and hang out with him. Go. Yes, Kate.
You're going to kill me. I totally forgot something.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Remember back when I was like, hey, if you're bored on your base,
Yes.
tell me where you're at and I'll give you an itinerary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
R. Schmidt 66 sent me. I won't get into the whole thing. I'll private. Hey, I'm from Delco. Shout out Delco. And I'm not sure if you're still doing this, but I PCS to Cannon Air Force Base, which is in the middle of nowhere. It's between Amarillo and like Albuquerque
Say no
or
more.
something.
Middle
If
of
you
nowhere.
say if in between Amarillo, then you don't have to say anything else. Like using Amarillo as the marker automatically said there's nothing around there.
Yeah. I looked, and this was the first time I was ever like pretty stumped. So I took it to Twitter. R. Schmidt 66. I got a ton of answers for you that I will be sending your way. And that's that. Sorry.
It's on retreat.